I mean, we're doing top five, right? Not top five
Yeah.
fighting
Fine.
games, not beat 'em up fighting games, and
Fighting games. Yeah.
fighting games, yeah.
Sorry.
And we're also including like um, things like the same series, but one, two, three. They all include as individuals. We're not gonna do like we're not gonna say like, okay, if you say one game, it covers all of its variations. We're not gonna do that. So we can say individual variations.
I did think about that. Yeah, but the thing is, you're right. Because if you start saying,
because you saw my list, right?
Yeah.
You saw my list.
Yeah, I don't think we should do
So
series.
my list basically goes with that motto of you can have variations as labeled
because
as your number
games
one
are
to five.
balanced differently. Games are balanced differently. You could have like different characters, different way moves are performed per like game version.
Even
So
like a super compared to an ultra Street Fighter,
it's different.
it's a different version. It's a different game. It's a different name. We can classify it as a individual game.
That's the cool rule to go
Yeah.
by. Yeah, we can
I mean, I'll do that purely because I only have like maybe two franchises that when it comes to fighting I care about. So for me, it's going to be multiples. So it's going to be one of those variations.
Yeah, I was a mess.
Yeah.
I was a mess. There's too many beat 'em ups I
I mean,
played. So
yeah, I mean, you guys obviously
yeah.
play like so many different
sit down.
styles. You got Guilty
Mhm.
Gear, you've got
That's it.
King of Fighters, you've got Last, is it Last Ninja Blade?
Last Blade.
Yeah,
Blade.
that one, yeah, but that won't come into this.
Like so many different types. Like you guys play a lot of different ones. That's why it's fine. I decided the other day that not the other day, like about a few months back, I decided to clear a bit of my games, and I got rid of all the fighting games that basically I don't know why I had in my collection, and then I stuck to the main two that I'm going to talk about, which is basically the reason why I play fighting games, and I don't have the.
I've got a thing where we list our five, but after we've listed our five and had a quick talk, you should have one that's like an honorable mention.
What do you mean honorable mention?
As in one you really, really like but didn't make your list.
I don't have anything like that, man. Oh, actually, I do have one like that. Yeah, I do have one like that.
No,
sorry.
you can't just have five and that's it. It's obviously you hit more than five. There's no way you could have just hit five and not had any more in mind.
Have you got the games with you, by the way, by any chance? Are they in your
What, in physical form?
yeah?
Oh shit! Like I've got to dig them out though.
Okay,
Got them.
yeah.
Yeah.
Nah, I gotta sort of dig mine out too, so I didn't really do that. But what I was saying is that would have been good if we sort of like brought it out, as we talked about it. If it's in close range, pick them up, and I guess we can start with
Mine's just a different genre. Like bounces around. So
yeah. And I'm looking around. Okay, that's fine. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna edit it with clip shots of the games.
Oh, awesome!
So
Yeah,
it's gonna look a bit more interesting. So yeah, Logic, do you want to do like your five, Hassan your five, then my five, or do you want to go with first five of everyone's, first four of everyone's, first three of everyone's?
No, because what happens with that is when we do that, we tend to discuss it afterwards as well.
Yeah.
I don't know whether we should say the game and then just give a short blurb about why we like it. So if I say my fifth one, I can genuinely just give like a little short summary of why I like that game.
I think that's better, and then that way everyone gets their point across of all the top five, and then once everyone's done the top five, we can then discuss versions of them, like in any sort of debates as to why you think it is a good spot. I don't know.
Okay.
Because otherwise, that last I remember when we did the scary films, and we were like each film we named, we're like, oh, that's my one, and then we just started talking about it.
yeah.
You know, we can mention it if it's ours or not, but let's just let everybody do their top fives.
Yeah.
So 5 being like the lowest,
The league,
and
and
number 1 being your most your prize game that you love to play.
My fifth favorite game, beat 'em up, is Street Fighter 2 Turbo. The reason that it's Street Fighter 2 Turbo is on the SNES is the first fighting game that I ever played. And it was the first fighting game that I remember that you could enter in the 10-star cheat and you could play it. And it is for me the game that got me into fighting. There is no other way around about it. Like, it is something, especially the SNES version, is the game that I like the most. I love playing with Cammy. It was the first time I liked Vega. I felt the stages were really nice. I felt everything about it was great. And as a kid, when first time you're playing anything, it's one of those games that I will always remember. Like, so, fifth favorite is Street Fighter 2 Turbo. The fourth one is Street Fighter 3. And the reason I'm going for Street Fighter 3 is that Street Fighter 3, when it came out on the Dreamcast.
Which one?
Third, I think it's Third Strike.
Yeah. Cool.
I know that Second Impact wasn't that good, and the first one was quite buggy as well. But the third one, for me,
I got to mention on the Street Fighter for the SNES. You mentioned you like playing with Cammy. So she came in Super Street Fighter 2 for the SNES.
That's the one then. Yeah, that's fine. That's the one. 5 was Super Street Fighter 2.
Okay.
Turbo, yeah.
4 was Street Fighter 3. Just got a Third Impact. I'll explain why quickly. It was an amazing game. It was a breath of fresh air. It only had Ken, Ryu, Kuma, and Chun-Li in it from the originals. But the thing was, the parry system was amazing, and the supers. I think that was Ryu's strongest super in any game. His Dragon Punch was by far one of the most strongest Dragon Punches I've ever seen in any game. Amazing. It was just amazing the fact that you could parry Hadouken for the first time. And the greatest Evo moment ever, where he parried all of Chun-Li's things. So that was amazing.
Yeah, I've seen that multiple times. That's brilliant. There's Chun-Li there parrying it. It's
insane.
Was it Chun-Li? Yeah, it was Chun-Li.
Yeah, it was Chun-Li. It's like Matrix, man. It's like the Matrix.
Oh, that was mental.
It was the other guy was Chun-Li, wasn't it? And he was
it was Ken versus Chun-Li.
Yeah, Daigo versus I can't remember who it was. It wasn't. Yeah, but that was pretty good. Third is Tekken, but it's Tekken 5. It's not any other one. It's Tekken 5, but I know there's a variation of Tekken 5, which I can't remember properly what the name of it is.
Dark Resurrection.
Tag Tournament.
Dark Resurrection. For the sole fact that game's character selection was amazing, but Lily's introduction was the first character that I properly got into, was Lily. For the first time, I actually enjoyed playing with a Tekken character. I loved it. It's one of those games that still to this day I would love to pick up. I think it's amazing.
What console?
I had it down. I bought it for PS3, so I had it as a downloadable on PS3.
Okay.
Yeah, man, that was just nuts. Still to this day, I remember playing games and making stories up with characters. Hawarang breaking into someone's house and beating the shit out of the other person, and then Jin calling his dad to come in because they had to beat the shit out of Hawarang, but then Hawarang running off and sending his robot Jack in to fight. We used to make up so many stories with that game because it's just amazing, and it's really good. Still to this day is a game that I enjoy. I like Tekken 7, but Tekken 5 for me is the one, man. It's the one that I just a thing.
I remember you said that we were going to try and do that for a series on our channel. We never got around to doing it because we decided that it wasn't family friendly.
No, it wouldn't have been.
The stories.
Yeah, stories. I love making up stories in fighting games. It's like Ryu versus Ken, and you burnt my house down, you bastard.
You dragon punched my roof off, and it's not burnt. You fucker.
Sagat against Ryu, you stole my dragon punch. No, I made it better.
Vengeful storylines.
You gave me the only scar that's last. Every other fight doesn't matter.
Dude, I stole your dragon. You gave me this. What is this? I can't even pick up ladies with this, man. I know I had one eye, but a scar, it pains me, man. Every night it's a burn. What the hell? Number 2 is Guilty Gear XX. For the sole fact that Guilty Gear XX was a fighting game that I'd never expected. And to put it in perspective, at that point, for me, fighting games mainly consisted of Tekken and Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. And when I saw Guilty Gear for the first time, and Guilty Gear XX to be precise, and bought it and played it, I was just amazed by it. Like, I thought, I can't believe that other type of fighting games like this exist out there, and especially the character selection, learning some of the characters, and when you learn a character that you really enjoy playing, like Faust, you pretty much know how to. You start knowing how to pull out his moves. You enjoy the game a lot more, and I think the lore of it is quite nice as well. I think with fighting games, a lot of people don't talk about it, but the lore is really amazing. Right? I love that a lot with any fighting game. I like to know the storyline. I think Street Fighter have it pretty nailed. King of Fighters has it nailed as well, but King of Fighters one goes a bit messy at times. Tekken has it nailed, but Tekken recently kind of pinned it down finally to try and end that arc off. But Guilty Gear's storylines are quite solid, and for lore-wise, it was quite interesting. As a fighting game, I rate it second in my list. And number one, my absolute most favourite fighting game is Capcom vs. SNK on the Dreamcast. For the sole fact that when that game came out, for me, it was absolutely mind-blowing. And I will strongly argue that the design of it, the stage design, was intense. Like, Pogo Cafe on that is one of my favorite stages, and the soundtrack was absolute on point.
The beast.
Yeah. But the thing was, it worked really well with the game, because this was a clash of two companies that went head to head, and that was the first time I got introduced to King of Fighters and SNK. But the thing was, the game was so well built. Like, the ratio mode was amazing. You couldn't just select characters. Like, you couldn't select Sagat and Ryu in the same team. You had to be careful, because Sagat was three bars, but then you could only take someone with 1 bar. If you chose to go with Akuma was 4 full bars, so your ratio would be full. But if you chose Ken, you could only choose one other person with 2 bars. The menu system was
so the ratio pressured you to be tactical on a different level, because if a player was ratio, say, 2, they'll be weaker than a ratio 3 person. They'll take more damage.
Yep.
So if you can have 4 fighters, just make them more ratio 1, but they'll get wiped out easily from like really strong moves.
They will, but the thing was that if you
obviously,
yeah, if you were really good with those ratio 1 characters, I think Blanca was ratio 1, Kami was ratio 1, Benimaru was ratio 1, and King, I think she was ratio 1 as well. She wasn't ratio 2. If you knew how to play those like 4, you could absolutely rip the crap out of someone. But then again, if you knew how to play really well with like Ken and Iori or Ken and Terry Bogard, you could decimate people. And for me, it's just, that game will forever be a game that I will happily play for hours on end, because it's so challenging. Like, Geese Howard, when you beat him the first time and you have to face him the second time, he's like M. Bison on steroids, man. He's literally just grappling you on the floor, freaking floor Hadoukens going on, in the air, double Hadoukens in the air to corner trap you. And when you beat him, you're like, man, I've done it, man. I knocked you out.
Which system?
Yeah?
Which system?
Dreamcast. Dreamcast. Yeah, the blister joypad. If you use that D-pad too hard, you just get blisters like from here all the way to there.
The first one, yeah. The first one that came out. And also, another tactical thing was the fact that you can select of the 3 which one goes first by doing a secret button.
Yeah.
And that's brilliant, because technically every time you play versus local, they can see who you're picking. So they like, oh, you picked M. Bison, I'll pick the same player that can fight him. But then, so you pick your 3 players, yeah. But then when it comes to the versus screen, you could change the ratio and change the order and fuck him up. So it's actually really cool, because then they can never guess 100% of the 3 which one's going to be played with their character that they picked. So it messes it up, because I know there's certain characters like Ryu type characters, and then Gaio and Bison type characters, which are like the charge ones, that work better against their counterpart, and then some are weaker. And as long as you can always get that balance right, it's quite easy to beat some people. But that threw a spanner in the works. It literally made it a lot more difficult for you to just cheat, basically. Oh, you pick a Bison, I'll pick the same style. You know, you actually you can swap it around and then fuck him up. It's brilliant, man. 3 players and.
Even in that game, what was really cool was people that didn't know the King of Fighters characters and stuff like. You had these characters come on and they oozed character. Like you get Ryu and Kaio if they fight, and Kaio would just like throw flame across his face. And like you think, well, he got a cheek. What's he do that to Ryu for? Like, and you learn about the characters. They've got really good introductions together. Like before the fight, you get really cool.
But it was also.
I don't think I ever watched those.
They're worth it. Really good. They're really fun to watch.
Start
Really
watching it. I think I'll keep pressing A, so I don't realize. But I think I need to start watching those.
You can watch it on YouTube. So on YouTube, they did it for both 1 and 2. They did the antagonism. Who's the antagonist of each other? So Terry Bogard was always against Ken. So whenever they introduction, Ken would throw his hat to Terry Bogard, and you see Terry Bogard catch it and just put it on like that. And then it was Chun-Li versus Mai, and there was a couple of others like. But the thing was, it was really kind of like they were trying to push forward that these two groups hate each other, that they don't like each other. Like there was rivalry, and that was what made it more interesting. Because at that point, King of Fighters was known, but it wasn't well known in the West as much as it was known in the East. And for me, that was my first introduction. I remember playing with Iori and thinking, "Shit, man, I need to learn more about this guy."
That guy was good to play with. He's the one that shoots the fireball on the floor. Yeah, he's mad.
The fans were a bit salty because they changed the animation of Iori's Maiden Masher. He's like his super move, and fans of Fighters loved how violent it was originally, but Capcom just changed it into like him using CPR with flames. It's still messed up, but it was changed slightly, so some fans are salty. But yeah, and also the good thing about the first King of SNK Capcom was they cared about King of Fighters that liked certain years. Like Kaio was the standard Kaio you play across most King of Fighters, but they also, if you don't start, you can play as the 94 version, and he can put fire along the ground like Iori.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. They had certain characters you could hold start and get the alternate versions of, like Rio as well. His one was alternate as well.
Rio,
like,
the fake
really cool. Like that's what was good about that.
No, that was for me. So honorable mention is a game that is by far one of the hardest beat 'em ups I've ever played, to the point that it annoys the crap out of me. But at the same time, I know that there's been inklings of it that is one of the best fighting games ever made for the fact of the fighters and the balance. I don't know, Hassan, if you agree with it. Garu Mark of the Wolves.
Oh, that's my 5.
Yeah. But I've heard a lot about it because when I heard about Garu Mark of the Wolves, the only thing that I really heard about it from someone was that it was one of the most well-balanced made games to ever come out. Like a lot of people said it was one of SNK's best like offerings. And at that time, a lot of people were like, it wasn't something that people expected them to release. It's a very difficult game. It's not easy. Learning the characters is not easy either, but if you do learn them, it doesn't mean that you can just blast your supers out whenever you want. You have to be super on point and knowing what's going on. So honorable mention is Garu Mark of the Wolves. I think it's a very difficult game. It's something I enjoy playing. But yeah, pretty much my list, to be honest with you.
Okay, cool, nice. I can run off that because my 5 was Garu Mark of the Wolves, because it's for me it got the same legendary status as Fatal Fury Real Bout. Because that was before Garo came out. That was their most finely tuned fighting game. But Garo is basically SNK Street Fighter 2.
Yeah.
So it was just blew up. Like, because obviously King of Fighters was very different, but this was them just trying to make a Street Fighter type game, but technical as hell. But for the same reasons, I liked Rock Howard. The boss characters were hard. It was I said, it just got progressively harder, but the balance of characters and how they're all different, it reminded you of like playing Street Fighter 2 for the first time again.
I think the thing with that was
really fresh. It was really fresh. So like that, I've left out Capcom versus SNK and Street Fighter First Strike because I knew you were going to pick them. I knew 100% you were going to pick those two because they would have made my top 5. but I thought let me rather than choose what's best is what I played the most.
Yeah.
So, Mark of the Wolves was 5 on Dreamcast.
So what you played the
My fourth-
most is a top best. I mean,
No, but like because I know
forget overall statistics.
No, but I know like Tekken 3 for me. Tekken 3 is probably one of the best beat 'em ups made when it came out. But I would never choose it. But I know I played hours of it, but I know it's up there. Like, same with Street Fighter Third Strike. I know for me it's the best Street. If you're asking me to do my top 5 fighters, it wouldn't be in there. So 5 is Mark of the Wolves. 4 is Last Blade 2. Because for me, I was a Samurai Showdown fan, and then Last Blade came along, and it was better. They had a better set of characters. The story was really rich and deep for each character, and rooted in like Japanese history. And I used to obsess over the arcade version before it was available on Dreamcast, and I used to print out from the days of the old internet. I used to print out the character's story and moves list, so I tried them out in the arcade. So it had like a good memories for me, that game. So I already knew a lot about it before actually owning the home version on Dreamcast. And that was the tweaked edition on Dreamcast. Yeah, like it was just solid through and through. It was one mistake and you're basically dead. So the stakes were high. Apparently the new Samurai Showdowns like it, but I've not bought it. I've not tried the new Samurai Showdown, so I wouldn't know. So my 3 is Virtual Fighter 5R. Because Virtual Fighter is one of them games where when I've played it all through every version, I've played every single version, and like with Virtual Fighter, it's like a job. Like you can play that game and be terrible and look terrible while playing it, and it puts you off. Like Tekken, at least I can play it and button bash and look amazing at points. But with Virtual Fighter, you cannot look good unless you've mastered a character or spent hours mastering a character. It is a punishing game when it's seen on a high level. And 5 technically pushed it to insane levels, and they had really good. They always add only 2 characters every iteration, but it's like they really fine tune those characters to match the previous cast. And it's just for me, it's head and shoulders like just a great solid fighter. And I've just through the years of having a Saturn and playing that, and then playing even in Wimbledon Odeon, I played the first Virtua Fighter on arcade. They had a unit there, so that was my first 3D game I played, and I was just like, geez, this is amazing. Like, but now obviously it looks shit, but then it was amazing. But Virtua Fighter 5 for me, it's one of those ones where you put the hours in and it's incredible. And I didn't actually own Virtua Fighter 5R, I only played it in the arcade, but what's amazing is in the video game Judgment, made by Sega, is a part of the Yakuza series, they've actually got the full game in the game.
That's pretty sick.
Within the game, it's an open world version of Tokyo, and if you can visit Club Sega within the game, and they let you play like Space Harrier, they let you play a racing game that was really like.
I know Shenmue does that.
Yeah, but it's the same development team actually as Shenmue, the previous. Yeah, so they have the full game of Virtua Fighter 5R in there, so I was playing it again and like.
What does the R stand for?
It was the final tweak. It was like a goodbye. It was literally the last Virtual Fighter. Like Yu Suzuki left Sega. So Virtual Fighter, apart from the announcement we recently got of a new one, this was the old team. This was the very, very last fine tuning. They added back the sumo character, and they added a taekwondo guy with like long hair. Like he was the 2 new additions to it. And then, not many people played that version unless you're an arcade head in Japan or here. And it's great that they included that in Judgment for people to play. So that was 3. 2 will be King of Fighters 99 Dream Match, which was released in Dreamcast. But they later released a PS2 version, which was a 98 special, which is basically the same but missing 2 characters, Vanessa and some other guy, I think Seth. But King of Fighters 99 was like the peak for me because it had everyone from 97 and 98 that I loved, and just all in one game, and like it was arcade perfect because it was on Dreamcast, and it was just like, for me, it was the peak King of Fighters game. And like
sorry to interrupt this, because like the interesting thing is that a lot of people will always say that 98 is the best King of Fighters that was ever made. But you're the only person that I know, because Like, you know how it is. People always say that 98's the best. You go and play it. Like, from the outside, you're like, oh, this game's hyped. But you don't actually see why it's so good for.
But
It's
actually,
interesting.
sorry, go on, sorry.
Yeah. No. It's just interesting to hear someone say that 99's better. Like,
No, but you know what the weird thing about that, while I was stopping you with, technically the one I'm talking about is 98.
Yeah, no. I know. Yeah.
Basically, what confusing thing that SNK done, which was quite silly, is they actually have a King of Fighters entry called 99, which is a different game.
Mm.
They introduced K and Kula and all those characters into that one. And 99 Dream Match was specifically made for Dreamcast. And it was just so you could play the older characters and the older style of game before they went off the rails with the Millennium series. So yeah, that was the peak. So of 2D fighters for me, which is strange because I've got no Street Fighter games in my top 5. But number 1 for me, which is the best fighter without a doubt.
Hang on. Just give me your rundown again from 5 to 4.
5
to
was Terra, Mark of the Wolves.
Okay.
Yeah.
4 was Last Blade 2. 3 is Virtual 5R. And then 2 was King of Fighters 99, Dream Match. And then the number 1, which is the greatest of all, is Soul Calibur 1 on Dreamcast.
Oh, yeah.
Hours in this game. It was when the Dreamcast was brand new and everyone was gassed for it. But what you find is, like, for me, it's a near perfect beat 'em up. You had double the cast that was free in the game you unlocked. They had a massive story mode where you can earn different types of weapons. The lore was crazy, the story in that game. They're just fully that you could explore. And it was just tight. Like, it was an insane. I spent a ridiculous amount of hours playing that beat 'em up. I think more than any beat 'em up I've played in my life, I played that Soul Calibur, the first.
Have you ever played the GameCube one?
I did. I owned that one with Link.
It's got Link in it.
Yeah.
Brad's pretty mad.
I think it lost something, the later ones. I can't describe it, but it lost something. It's still wicked. I love the GameCube one.
It lost the Sega charm in it.
Huh?
It lost the Sega charm.
Something was off. I don't know what it is. Something was off. I found that the first was just so good, and there was something for the later ones.
I think the thing was interesting with the Soul Calibur series was that you are right. The first one was like by far the best. But I think the thing that Soul Calibur made that was quite unique was that they would always introduce certain characters in. So the one that he's on about, the GameCube one, when they released it on GameCube, they put Link in there. When they released it on PlayStation 2, they had Hype-Kin in there from Tekken. And when they released it on Xbox, they had Spawn. But then after that, when they released it again, I think they had the Star Wars characters. So if you bought it in the PS3, you got Darth Vader. If you bought it in the Xbox, you got Yoda. But I can't remember if you bought it on one of the console. I don't know if they did it for the Nintendo, but you got another character for it, basically. And the thing is, with Soul Calibur, it was, if you knew how to play with one character, you knew how to play with them consistently throughout the entire series. They wouldn't be fundamentally changed. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's always felt to me like it's always been like the second game that they like produced after Tekken. That was the thing.
Yeah, but I think it's just I don't know whether there was just too many beat 'em ups or interest just went after the first two. But the first one I found it was like fever pitch. Like the Dreamcast was new. Like everyone loved the technology. Everyone loved the game. In the arcade as well, it was big. And it was the first 3D fighter to let you move into the background 3D. Like the 8-way run technique they introduced. And like, yeah, just mechanics were tight. Like I was just obsessed.
Maybe
like,
because
it had to be number one.
Dreamcast did really good arcade ports, and because it was the first time you're playing it at home from an arcade, maybe that was the black smoke that made it a lot more awesome.
Well, you hit the nail on the head. That's why Dreamcast is one of my favorite machines, because all the fighters that I listed, I have Dreamcast versions.
They're amazing arcade ports, isn't it?
Yeah. So it was just that's literally what it is.
They did it perfectly.
Do you have them in the Japanese jewel cases?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
I don't like the English jewel cases for Dreamcast at all, but the Japanese
massive. They had like double sides as well for no reason. They had just double
I like the ones that we got, but the thing is, I hate the fact that they're so brittle. They just fucking
Oh
break.
yeah, they're all cracked. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
cracked.
If you breathe at them wrongly, it shatters.
I think all my cases are cracked from the older ones.
None of the hinges stay on. But I do like the fact that it's like a beefed up CD case with like
Yeah.
purple bits. I like the color coding, but man, they're fucking fragile. Okay.
Hingegate. We should bring it back now on Twitter, innit? Hingegate. Remember when Dreamcast ruined our game hinges? Like,
That's it, yeah.
Just
So
look
yeah,
at it
that's
wrongly.
what five. The honourable mention I'd probably say would be Third Strike, Street Fighter First Strike. That was just it was just amazing. Like it's just So it redefined Street Fighter because obviously we knew and loved Street Fighter for so
It
long.
wasn't that amazing.
And Alpha, and then that came along and it was, as you said, it was different and the mechanics changed it up. And
to add on to that, though, the thing was that for me, like Street Fighter 2, from a lore point of view, was the first kind of like, it was really interesting. Like, you wanted to understand what was the beef between Ryu and Sagat. But I think Alpha pushed the lore further because Alpha, there were certain storylines in Alpha that made you want to learn a lot more. Because for me, I'm always heavy on gaming lore. I like it. I like to know about characters. I like to know the beef between characters. And Street Fighter was amazing for that because it was pretty straightforward. It only got a bit more a bit more confusing and convoluted when Akuma came into the picture. Not because Akuma is not a great character, because the problem is Akuma is ridiculously overpowered. Like in gaming lore, he's Raging Demon is literally pushing you into hell and then fighting the demons off as he comes out of hell again. That's what the move is. Where you see the beats is not him beating the character, it's him beating demons to get out of hell. But the problem is that his lore.
Right. Is that why they never show it?
No,
Damn.
so
I just thought it was
But
just
the
too
thing-
crazy for you to show.
no, it's him.
getting your ass
It's
kicked in the dark.
Yeah,
By hell,
literally him.
innit? That's mad.
Yeah, and then probably. But the lore on Alpha was very interesting because Alpha introduced a lot of unique characters. I think the first earlier Alpha series, not Alpha 3, but the ones before that, were a
Two.
bit better. Yeah,
I like the fact that
Street Fighter-
they were fresh and they were young-faced, you know? A
Alpha-
young
Alpha
Ken, a
had
young
the most story,
Ryu.
though. Alpha had the most story because a lot of the modes had a lot of conversations, like, especially Alpha 3. There was a lot of text between the fights. So.
Yeah,
Alpha 2 and
Alpha-
Alpha 3, they're the only variations that I tend to play for Alpha, and it's the ones that's really close. Like, I love Alpha 3 for the gameplay, but I also love Alpha 2 for the actual levels and the music associated with them. Like, they kept the original, you know, Ryu's got his Ryu stage, whereas in the third one, I actually like the fact that they got different levels and stuff, but the fact that it's not related to the characters, but it's like loosely related. It's like what they did in the later versions of the games, like the Street Fighter 3s, where they had like a China-ish area, but it wasn't exactly Chinatown. But you knew it was Chun-Li's level, but it wasn't obvious. Whereas in the Street Fighter Alpha 2, they had that actual. This is Ryu, this is Ryu's stage, this is Chun-Li, this is Chun-Li's stage. So the music was like related to that. It was on point, and it's the most Alpha game of all the Alpha games. Alpha 2 was the one that they had the most variations. Like Saturn got a 2 gold edition, I believe.
Saturn was amazing. And Saturn actually was more arcade perfect because they had the RAM cartridge.
Yeah,
yeah.
and they added in like Cammy as like a bonus character. They had like this other variation on the arcades that came out with Alpha 2, which they've made very multiple variations of that, where they basically fine-tuned it to the point where it's almost as powerful, if not more powerful, than Alpha 3, which is quite weird, isn't it? Usually they make another variation to fix all the previous problems, but in this one they made their part 3 and then they basically beefed up part 2 to level it up. So those two are brilliant. I love playing them for their own 2 unique features, you know. So,
I think I'm really upset though that I couldn't find a place for rival schools, and that was really upset me.
All right, shall I do my top 5 then?
Yeah, go. Yeah, sorry, go.
So top 5, number 5 would be Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. I've always loved Mortal Kombat, but I've never gone beyond Mortal Kombat 3 That was the one that I played on the SNES, and then Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 was the one that I played on various systems, PC, Steam, and all of that, and different systems. It's basically the complete version of Mortal Kombat. It has all the best characters. It has all the classic characters, the classic Sub-Zero with the ninja mask, which I love. But it has all the the fighting mechanics of Street Fighter 3, which was the best and refined for the 2D Mortal Kombat series. 1 and 2, I only ever look at them as nostalgia, but I never actually played them when they were released. I remember seeing them in arcades and stuff like that, but actually play it, put money in, and actually play it or own them, I never actually had the chance. So gameplay-wise, when I try to play them back retroactively, I find them so clunky, and they are clunky, but I have no nostalgia for me to play them. I just know that the fighting and the way they looked was iconic.
Yeah.
But Mortal Kombat 3 was the one that I actually played. We had a SNES when we were kids, so that's why Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 is the most souped-up version of that. And every other variation that came out after that, they kept changing. Like me and Lovejoy, we talked about, they kept changing the mechanics, and they made so many variations. More Kombat Armageddon, this stuff. When the Wii, I've got the latest one on the Switch, which is
11.
Mortal Kombat 11. Yeah, I've got that because it's like the most final edition and it's portable. But to be honest, I barely play it. I play like the basic characters I recognize, Cabal, and I can do his moves. I can play with Sub-Zero, and I can play with Scorpion, a bit of Raiden. But then it's like they've got so many variations. They've got different variations of the modes you can pick for them, like 2 or 3 fighting styles. Over my head, man. Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 keeps it simple. Number 4 is Capcom vs SNK 2, Mark of the Millennium.
Oh yeah.
2 was the one for me, man. Like, I remember, we played the EO edition, which is the easy operation version, which came out on the GameCube, and it came out on the Xbox as well, easy operation. But the PS2 had the best version because of the fact that it had the best control for it, and the cover's really cool as well. I have it here somewhere, but it's a Chun-Li on the front.
Wait. What was the easy operation?
Easy Operation was the one that came out on Xbox and
What did it do?
GameCube. They had this option where you can just flick your right stick and it does the special moves.
Oh, okay.
It's so that allow noobs to play in it, basically. So
But also the accessibility for people
which is
that
good,
are-
yeah, exactly. Definitely, I know that there's certain people that just don't play games, but when they pick that up and they just start flicking the right stick, they do all the specials, Haryukens, Tadabrukens, whatever. So it makes it easy for them to play. And I actually personally played that on the GameCube first, so I've played on various systems now. So I do enjoy, from nostalgia, I recognize the GameCube one, but I've played on on PC and stuff like that, and the controls I play with the traditional, like a PlayStation style or Xbox style controller, and that M Bison was so sleek. He's one of the most skinniest M Bison. I play with M Bison, one of my favorite characters, right? I've seen him on multiple games, yeah, but on that specific game, he was so sleek and so skinny and agile, really fast. His electric drills was I know how Lovejoy loves my electric drills. It's so much more faster on that one. He's really agile. I don't think they've ever made a slimmer version of M Bison quite like that one.
His throw was awesome as well. That kick throw he does.
Exactly. Yeah.
He was very difficult. If you knew how to play Bison on Capcom vs SNK2, and you put him to level 4, and someone else managed to even pick 2 level 2 characters or 2-1-1, you decimate the entire person. And you are right. That M Bison was very, very difficult to beat.
He's very agile. They fattened him up in Alpha, and in Street Fighter 5 they took away his ability to do power drills, electric drills, because he shoots instead, I think. Or is that Alpha as well?
Psycho Crusher,
yeah. No. In the Alpha one, they took away his drill, unless you do a special.
Yeah,
so he shoots an electric ball, and he's fat. And in Street Fighter 5, his kick, they nerfed it, so he does a knee kick rather than an actual A kick, and a proper high kick, which I used to kick people to death, man. That kick was so powerful. They nerfed it. Street Fighter 5, they nerfed his kick. He does a knee kick now. doesn't go fully straight.
Because, sorry to interrupt. So in SNK versus Capcom 2, it was power drill, head stomp, sweep,
He could teleport as
and then,
well. Had everything.
and scissor kick, teleportation.
He had everything.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, if you knew how to do the, you would do the head stomp as you went off, then do the power hand down again. Yeah. And if you were unlucky, you blocked the head stomp, you would definitely get hit by the power hand.
Yeah, he's evil. He's evil, man.
He had the most variation of his moves, and it was at a stage where it was still 2D and it wasn't nerfed. So in the later version, they started nerfing a lot of his moves to make it a lot more balanced. So that's why I think that was one of the ultimate times when at that stage it was 2D and he was at his most amount of moves, because in the Street Fighter 2 he never had the teleport.
No,
So they introduced that later, but it was also still a 2D game in it. Also, it was really cool for me to play with SNK characters for the first time. Like, that was again my introduction to SNK. All of their game characters, Iori. I like the fact that they had is that Rolento, isn't it? He's from Alpha, but
Rolento.
they had him. Iori was brilliant, and
They actually had a lot of guest characters in that one that were unique. They had a Heiamaru from Samurai Showdown. They had Hibiki from Last Blade 2. She was in there as well. The rival school, Kyosuke, with a white outfit. They had really good characters, really extra.
Yeah.
The choice of characters is really fun.
Is he from the Ninja Blade?
Yeah. Heiamaru. Yeah.
Like,
But it was. Sorry to interrupt. It was. I think it was the pinnacle of Capcom versus SNK series. Like the second one, they went all out, opposed to the first one. But the second one, like what Mac was saying, is the one that I blasted the most as well. It's amazing.
yeah, we always played it.
Yeah. Still to this day, you can.
You know why we chose the first one is because the first one's got that nostalgia hit. But
Yeah,
the second one was played more definitely, but the first one just that memories from seeing it for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, for me, my memories are from the second one because I never owned the first one. But obviously, you guys played that one as well as the second one. But yeah, for me, the second one is the one that springs to mind because I played that on the GameCube and it was mad. Also, the fact that the artwork as well. I remember hating the artwork. I think in these Street Fighter characters look so weird, but then now I love it. I love it for what it is. Like, I know that whenever I see that Ryu and that Ken with that weird washed out picture, I know it's that brilliant game. You know, it's like I can associate it with that. Love you told me that it was because of SNK were doing the drawing and their style, right?
Yeah.
I had both illustrators in there.
No, yeah, because the illustration was that all the Capcom artists did the illustrations for the SNK characters, and then the SNK guys did all the illustrations for the Capcom characters. So that was the way that they did it to make it fair. Like, they wanted to give each other the opportunity to draw the characters in their own style. And yeah, sorry to interrupt on that, but yeah, that's a really good point to pick up on, because a lot of people, they're like, why does Ryu look so weird? But it's like,
looks weird, isn't it? Yeah. They have a very unique style.
Yeah.
So, number 3 would be Ultra Street Fighter 4. Ultra being the final iteration of Street Fighter 4, because they had Street Fighter 4, Super Street Fighter 4, Arcade Edition, whatever, and then they made Ultra Street Fighter 4. Street Fighter 4 was so cool because I remember they basically dropped the series for so long, and then they brought it back. And they brought it back with not as the aim to create a new game like they did with Street Fighter 5, which is why I don't really like it that much because it's so hard to learn. It's quite a different game. Street Fighter 4, they brought it back with the intention to revamp and get back to the original fans of Street Fighter 2. So if you look at Street Fighter 4 compared to Street Fighter 3, it basically is like a sequel to Street Fighter 2. It essentially skips Street Fighter 3 and goes straight to 4, and it's like the new improved sort of 3D, 2D fighting game that was based on all the foundations and all the type of mechanics of a Street Fighter 2 game. Do you guys agree?
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
you can see-
I played Street Fighter 4 a lot. I think I played Arcade Edition though more, but I played Ultra too. But Arcade, I think, just out of like time zone. Like when Ultra came out, I think I wasn't playing so much Street Fighter at that time.
yeah,
but
but
when
Street Fighter 4 in general.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. I liked it a lot. I like, that's why 5 was hurt so much.
It definitely, yeah, exactly. It definitely feels like a Street Fighter game, and that's what one thing that I also love about Street Fighter is the fact that they do stick with the same formula for quite a while. Maybe that's because they made some different variations and ports of Street Fighter 2, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. But for me, that's all I've seen for so long, and then it's quite rare that it makes multiple sequels. So I like the fact that they kept that formula for that variation, and then they changed it up again for Street Fighter 5, and they're going to change it up again for Street Fighter 6, and I won't be as drawn to it as I was with Street Fighter 4, and obviously the classic Street Fighter 2. Which brings me on to number 2. This is one of my all-time favorite games because it is, in a nutshell, Street Fighter, Super Street Fighter, Ultra Street Fighter, and then what comes after that? Hyper Street Fighter 2 Anniversary Edition with that Ryu. I remember in the arcade where he used to always do that Hadouken and blew out the screen. Oh my days! This is the pinnacle of the 2D Street Fighter 2, Super Street Fighter 2. This is everything you want from that 2D Street Fighter game. It's got all the characters. It's got all of the associated levels with the characters, so that the music's all, correlate. There is no like random levels with no characters. I've always loved Street Fighter with where they have their characters, they have their specific level with the soundtrack, because I love the soundtracks. Only negative thing is that I wish Akuma was selectable rather than doing a secret cheat, because I don't remember. I gotta Google that shit. And you can say that the final version that came out on the Switch is the final version of this game, being the final challengers, it was called. And they added in Angry Ken, Violent Ken, and Angry Evil Ryu. And Akuma again is secret to select. But I would still come back to this one being the final iteration. This came out well before that one. It has that art style. It has I don't know if you guys played this properly, but it has all the variations of the modes. You can select all the different modes, and when you select a different mode, like Street Fighter 2, the character of the picture, when you're seeing it on the versus screen, it changes to that art style. So if you go to Street Fighter 2 Ken, he has that that fluffy blonde hair and his smiley face. But then like Ryu, if you go to Super Street Fighter 2 variation, he has that sort of chicken look where he's so skinny and his hair's plucked out. It's like it's wicked, like how they change the art style on the fly as you pick the character from the different variations to tell you which one it is. And then they added the super bar. I mean, that was awesome because super bar was something that you associate with the 3D and the newer games. They added that into the original one. So this was the variation.
I played Turbo in the arcade, so that's why Super Turbo. That's why I knew the super bar was new.
That came out on the Xbox as well, under the collection, which came with. It's quite cool. It came with Street Fighter 3, so this is like a physical version of that Street Fighter 3 that I've got. But the fact that it came with the movie as well. It has the Street Fighter 2 animated movie.
Nice.
That's quite cool. And what I was gonna say, one of the annoying things as well is it came out on the classic system, which I love that system, but the fact that it's never been ported really bugs me. Like, they port every other fucking Street Fighter game, but they don't flip import this over. I've had to get an HDMI kit for my PS2. I've had to get wireless adapters for my PS2. I've invested quite a bit on my PS2 just so I could fucking play this wirelessly or portably wherever I want to go. A lot of investment for that. I wish they ported it. It would have been awesome, because trying to emulate this as well is a nightmare. But they did what was it? They haven't ported it, have they, at all?
No. It only came out. It only came out on that console, and to be honest with you, like that was by far one of the best versions of that game.
That's the pinnacle, isn't it? That's the
Yeah,
pinnacle.
it's the pinnacle because the fact was that, like what Max said, you could pick from the different ones of the characters that you wanted and everything else. For me, I think they did Street Fighter 2 justice for that. That was for that anniversary edition. I've not ever seen a game being done as well as that. And you know how much I famously don't like Street Fighter 2 iterations, but for me, that hands down, I can't argue with it. One of the best
They're
iterations.
buzzing on that. Brilliant.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, but Street Fighter 4 Ultra Edition, and they introduced the bar that you can change between different modes of the characters. So you can pick the Sagat from Street Fighter 4, whereas you can also change it to the Ultra Street Fighter 4 version. So you know they either nerf them or they make them stronger.
Yeah.
I remember Sagat was just crazy powered on the original Street Fighter 4, and then they nerfed him. So on that final version, they did what they did over here essentially. Multiple years later, decades later, they did that version where they actually can change it between the characters. But unlike this one, you just basically change the modes, like Street Fighter 4, Super Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition, and it changes the name, but it doesn't show the picture. In this one, they changed the picture to match the art style every time you select it. They did it the best, man. They did it the best. And the final game would be Street Fighter 2 Turbo for the SNES.
Oh wow, yeah, that's the first one.
Yeah, good choice.
That was the one that introduced me to Street Fighter. That was the one that introduced me to this entire genre, and that was the one that has always been dear to my heart. Me and my brother always played that. Even to this day, we still play that. I remember when the SNES Classic came out. That was the first game me and my brother put on, and we rinsed it. Street Fighter Collection also has that version of the game, but it's basically the arcade version of that game, which is the hyper fighting.
Yeah, SNES is the best.
It's not quite the same as a SNES port, and you know normally they with like console ports, due to the hardware they have limitations or they have a different style. For the SNES version, it was a port, but I wouldn't say it's a limitation. I wouldn't say it's a downgrade. I'd say it's the perfect variation that I actually enjoyed, because yeah, the arcade version may be more powerful, but you can't select the levels like you can on the SNES one. You can't. The charm on the SNES one is why I love it so much. So I think it's like a brilliant port. I was going to mention that as well, that the fact that arcade variations of this game, by the way, it came out in the arcade first.
Yeah.
Again, you can't own that, so it's a bit annoying. But I do own it on the what was it? The Arcade Stick Pro. I hacked on it. It has that game on it, and I fucking love it. So I finally have that variation portable. But yeah, it was arcade, Xbox, and PS2. So come on, man, bring it over, Capcom. Fucking hell. But yeah, Street Fighter 2 Turbo for the SNES, hands down the best. And nostalgia-wise, it's the one that's in memory. I had that when I was a child.
Remember the box, the SNES box?
Yeah, I'm just looking at it. I'm just looking at it.
Yeah, no, because that's what we had. Like when my brother bought the SNES, when my brother bought the Super Nintendo, that was our first game. Even though Zelda was my game on that console, but yeah, that was the biggest memory. I think.
Exclusive. I haven't actually revealed this on my channel at all. I hunted it down because this was the one that we had when I was a child.
Yeah.
I've got the original console still, but we didn't keep the box, but I hunted it down. This was the one that I had.
Beautiful.
This was the one. The M. Bison kicking and thing.
This is interesting because they chose to have two members of the same group fighting. Like lore-wise, it's an interesting cover to pick.
No, but I mean, even if you look at it, like on the cartridge as well, they had E Honda and Sagat.
Yeah, that's true. Actually,
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's in the box.
Yeah.
It's in the box. The box art from Capcom or Nintendo's perspective, like, it's an interesting piece of art to pick. Sagat and Bison going at it.
With the SNES colors,
Yeah.
the SNES color palette and the SNES controller, with the shoulder
Memory.
buttons.
In that box. That box is memory.
Yeah, that pad is what was designed for a Street Fighter game, and they did it perfectly, and that's why it sticks in a lot of people's minds, that game. And the what do you call it? Honorable mention. Honorable mention will be I have to say this one purely because it has the biggest bang for buck, and it's the most convenient. 30th anniversary edition for the Switch.
Of Street Fighter.
Yeah, that
The most
one.
Street Fighters in the top 5.
I know that one has everything. It has Street Fighter 1. This is the first time Street Fighter 1 has come in the collection with the rest of them. Usually they've always separated it out. You know I'm a Street Fighter guy because I've got
A lot.
all kinds of like Capcom classics. So if you look at these classic collections, you always see Street Fighter 2 and their variations, Championship and all that stuff. But then you see Street Fighter 1 sitting there by itself in a separate collection. This was the first time they brought Street Fighter 1. It's almost like they're not ashamed of it no more, and they brought it over. Like, I personally never played that game, and I would never play it. I tried it.
It was always like a legend. Everyone used to make lies, Chinese whispers about Street Fighter 1. Everyone would have their own storyline or their own of what they thought it was. I always remember when Street Fighter 2 was around, everybody had their own fake stories. It was old fake news.
It looked stupid. It looked hideous, to be honest, and it's very hard to play, very clunky.
But the thing is, Eagles from Street Fighter 1, in Capcom vs SNK 2, he's from Street Fighter 1. Yeah, and that was the thing with it, was that some of the characters that are in Street Fighter 1, they never made it out of Street Fighter 1, did they? I think he made it out. Huh?
Alpha, innit? Sodom. They took Sodom from Street Fighter 1 and put him in Alpha.
Yeah, but I think there's a guy in one of the Street Fighters in Street Fighter that never came out. I think the boss never came out of Street Fighter, the first one.
Yeah, no, I don't think they resurrected him.
Oh, okay. I don't even know who that boss was. But, yeah, I mean, I would say that is the most comprehensive collection for Street Fighter. They released it for Steam, Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo Switch. All of those platforms at the same time. You have Street Fighter 1, all the Mega Drive variations, arcade versions of them, by the way, all the alphas for the first time again ported over, because up to that point, Alpha Anthology for the PS2 was the only one that actually was the final edition until they finally made this one for the current systems. 1, 2, and 3. They have all the Street Fighter 3 variations, First Strike, Second Strike, Third Strike, all on there. And then they also have the best versions of all variations of those games online, so you can play them online again. So Super Street Fighter 3 Online Edition is playable online. You got Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, the one with Fei Long and all that. Cammy, that one is online. You got I think Hyper Fighting. One of the best collections. I don't know. It's like almost like 16 or how many? 3, 4, 6, 7, 9.
I always heard that
12
the Dreamcast version of Alpha 3 was supposed to have been like the best.
For the Dreamcast, I never.
I've got it and I've never played it. I've got it and I've never actually put it in the Dreamcast. I used to play that a lot with friends. I used to play that a lot with Alpha 3. I used to play it on a PS2 with my mates.
I got it from my laptop. It's called the Suzuku edition. Something edition for Alpha 3, I believe. I think it's Alpha 2.
Online as well.
Something edition. They basically have like a really souped up edition for that, and it was actually an official release for arcades, I believe. But yeah, you should play on the Dreamcast, man.
They do have a Street Fighter 2 for Dreamcast as well. There was Street Fighter 2 X match service, because I remember they released it Grandmaster Challenge for matching service, which is the only one.
Dreamcast had the online before everyone. That's why.
Yeah. So that is a brilliant version. That's basically the Japanese name for Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. Which was the one that we got in the West, but obviously put the X on it. But yeah, I mean, it has to be an honorable mention. I would have technically put it higher in my list, but I didn't want to put it because there's too much these other games are like so much more nostalgia when it comes to like actual what I've played constantly throughout my life. This collection came out recently and it's awesome to play because it covers all the different variations, different consoles, but the arcade version of it, and it's just convenient for you to play them without having to set up a fucking Sega Saturn. Have to find, all of that. This just works out the box. It's a bit weird because you can't set the levels, but they do have a way to set the levels before play. But because it's the arcade version, what do you expect in it? But
you have the box of it. It's the one for the Switch, isn't it?
I've been looking for it. I can't find it. It's here somewhere.
But it's the one for the Switch, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. It's Oh, here it is.
Did they only release it? They released it for every console. You did say that. I just want to confirm. But they released it for every console.
Every console and Steam. So you can see at the back there the selection of games.
Yeah.
It is freaking mental. So it's like the easiest one to play. Pop in, and me and my brother just plays online, and you can't see anything.
I like how they include. Did they include all the third? They included all the Street Fighter 3s, didn't they?
Yeah, because they're different. Yeah, because they're different.
All the variations. Yeah, if they basically carried on, they would have done all the Street Fighter 4s, all the Street Fighter 5 variation, and all the Street Fighter 6. Like that would have been the next collection if they did that. But I'm just glad they did that. All of one fucking cartridge, by the way. That's mental. That's Capcom at their best. They really started becoming a lot better. I don't know why I loved it. Like, look, this is a port and it's brilliant and it's giving you options. You can't. Surely you have to say this is a good choice.
I mean, I think look, at the end of the day, if you're
it should exist. Yeah, it's good.
I'll be honest with you. At the end of the day, you're a Street Fighter fan. If that's like something that allows you to access all the games that you enjoy playing, and it's something that you find convenient that you don't have to put out other consoles on, then go for it, man. It's
also,
not something.
I got it for Steam, very cheap.
What do you get for Steam?
Don't tell me
how
how.
much do you
Don't
get?
tell me how, but I got it for really cheap on Steam, and it's how many games? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12
Yeah,
games.
I know.
12 games on Steam. I'm laughing. You need to fucking have about 10 different emulators to play them. It just works straight.
I'll tell you what
on Steam.
Recently, Ultra Street Fighter 4 for Steam.
Cheap.
Yeah, really cheap.
Yeah, I've got that. Yeah.
25 is a lottie, so
I got part 5 as well. I bought the final version, the Championship Edition.
Yeah, I was tempted, but I'm gonna wait.
It's cheap. £18 I paid.
No, but I mean, I know Capcom well, and next year they have Rose, Akira from Rival Schools, and then the final character they haven't revealed. Once all 5 of them are out, they're gonna bring out another version.
They are. I just thought that because
that's what I'm gonna grab.
Yeah.
That's what I'm gonna grab. I'm gonna grab that edition.
I thought I held off long enough, and my brother started playing it a lot more, and I was like, you know what? Let's just get it and start playing it. I can't wait another year. I waited long enough, and I paid £18 for it. I actually bought the original one on PS4, and I barely touched it because it was such a broken mess.
Street Fighter 5.
Sure, Street Fighter 5. Yeah.
I've got that. I installed it for a very limited amount of time. I
sold it. I sold 5. Yeah. I had the original vanilla version, and I sold it because I was so disappointed. And I just never went back. Like I was like, fuck it. When they sort themselves out, I'll be there. Yeah.
Oh, weirdly enough, Mac, I do have Street Fighter the 30th anniversary collection.
Of course you do. Of course you do. You flipping lying scum.
I have it. But I have it on. I have it in Steam. I remember buying it.
Capcom are interesting because they've had so many good beat 'em ups. Like Rival Schools 2 for me was just fucking brilliant. Even the first one, those 2 are brilliant games, man.
What's Rival Schools?
You've never played
Rival? It's a different fighting series. It's a different fighting series.
Make a note of it. Make sure you buy it because it's historically a rare game, like a really good game to get a hold of.
Not because as well, isn't it? Darkstalkers.
It's Capcom.
Yeah, it's brilliant though. No, it's actually an amazing tag game. It was one of their best 3D tag games. Like, I should have put it in my top 5, but we spent hours.
It's too late. You can't do it no more.
Yeah, we've had it PS1, and then when they made the 2, we played 2, and then on Dreamcast when they re-released a better looking version, we played that. But it was slower because obviously we got the 50 hertz crappy version we had. Yeah, so
I'm gonna do a video on the high-low stick version 1.2 hack that came out for the Neo Geo that I've installed. I'm gonna install that on your one as well when you get it. I will show you the section where all the Street Fighter games are. They've got all the arcade versions of, like, Marvel vs. Capcom, X-Men vs. Street Fighter. They've got all the anniversary CPS2 versions of them, the actual arcade versions. It's literally the ultimate emulation box for
what I loved
all the Street Fighter games.
They had like Vampire Savior, like Darkstalkers.
Yeah, they got all of that. They got all of the SNK stuff, Neo Geo. They've got all of the Vampire stuff. They've got souped up versions of those as well, like the ultimate version with all the characters. That combined with this,
winning.
win. Like, it's fucking awesome. And that system, I told you, you can also plug in arcade sticks, 2 arcade sticks, or use the one and have a secondary arcade stick, or you can plug in 2 controllers, PS4, PS5, Xbox controllers, so you can play 2-player controllers. So if you don't want to play with the joystick, you can play with the controller. So ultimate box right there. And I'll do a video on all the actual games out on there, like the theme and stuff, because it's like the most advanced theme that they updated since the original version. And when you see that combined with that game, you're pretty much done for life, pretty much.
That's it, yeah.
HDMI out, you're sorted.
Yeah.
I think that it's the arcade stick you're on about, isn't it, for Neo Geo, the one there?
Yeah,
SNK Neo Geo Arcade Stick Pro. It's about 130.
Yeah, it's brilliant. So good.
If you get it, I'll hack it for you.
I want it. I'm definitely getting it.
I've got it.
100%.
It's a brilliant hack. It's a brilliant one. Any other final honorable mentions that you want to mention, and then
I think we covered basically everything. Like, because amongst us, all our favourites are covered.
You guys didn't say much about Mortal Kombat. What do you guys think?
I've never been a Mortal Kombat guy. I played 2 when it first came out because it had blood. When we were young, you got excited over the first thing with blood.
You're such a child.
We were kids then.
I'll tell you one.
Kids then. But like, that was the big deal of Mortal Kombat because of the fatality.
It was a violence.
Originally, yeah, exactly.
I'll tell you one that didn't get mentioned, but it's really good. Injustice: Gods Among Us.
I've never touched it. Yeah.
DC fighting game.
Heard that?
Well,
yes, that was recently free.
Basically, Mortal Kombat with.
No. Yeah, it is Mortal Kombat. But the thing is,
it's not. It's actually DC, and it has a special Scorpion character inside there as a bonus.
Well, I mean, it played like a Mortal Kombat game, right?
No, but it's made by the same company who made Mortal Kombat, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, it played like a Mortal Kombat game because it's made by them.
The original DC Universe or DC whatever that game is, it only has DC characters like Batman's, Flash.
What I mean,
but they added in randomly. Gameplay-wise, I don't know if it's.
Like a Mortal Kombat.
It probably is, but again, I don't follow all the Mortal Kombat new versions. So.
It is. So the thing is, it's similar layout like Mortal Kombat. But the thing is, once you get used to and you understand how to fight with the characters, it's really fun because it's superheroes. Effectively, you're fighting with superheroes, but once you know how to fight with them, you love it. And the thing is, it's a fighting game that not that many people forget about it, basically. They think, oh, Injustice, everything else, but it's a sleeper hit, man, for me. I've got the Ultimate Edition.
It's big enough to have a sequel, though, so that's saying something.
I have to agree. It definitely was one that went underneath the radar, and people assumed that it's just like a DC superhero stuff. That's not really something that I'm interested in because it hasn't got the name of like a Capcom fighter. Like it hasn't got that SNK nostalgia. But recently, not recently. I'd say like about 6 months ago, it became free for Xbox, PlayStation, and Steam. So I basically downloaded them on all 3 platforms. So you can actually play it on PS4 and PS5 technically. Just download it. Providing you added it to your library. I don't know if it's free anymore, but the Xbox version has Scorpion. No, it doesn't have Scorpion. You're going to buy him as DLC, whereas the other versions, the PC and the PS4 version, has Scorpion already in there. And it's fucking mad. Like, playing with Scorpion, it feels like his current layout. And all the characters are a lot more darker. Superman just looks really angry and dark. It's like a bit
based
more.
On a comic series.
It looks.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yes, it is.
It's amazing.
You can read you can read the comic series, so it's not based on anything else.
Based
It
off
is
the
based on that.
It's like a very dark. Almost feels like, you know how DC's the newer films that they made. What was it? The Batman versus Superman. You know, that whole dark sort of theme. It's like that personified in the game. You know.
Yeah, that's what the story was. That's what the comic was.
No light humor. It's good.
Because in DC you do have darkness in it as well. Like, I know the problem in this modern age is that Marvel movies have dominated films, and I know I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent, but the thing is, lore-wise, DC is very strong. Like,
it's stronger, technically stronger.
Yeah, let's not argue that it's not. It's just their movies are not in this.
They don't translate well to the audience because Marvel introduced humor and stuff that would work well for your general public and as a movie, whereas
That's just the talent behind it, really.
that too, yeah. But the fact that these humorous parts in these Marvel films, people say, all of this stuff, the world's ending and you're laughing, that wouldn't really be the case, right? But I'm like, fuck off, it works and it's funny as hell, yeah. Thor's hilarious. So DC,
something we've kind of done some disrespect because we've not mentioned any of their Marvel Capcom games. And Marvel
how much can you mention? How many can you mention?
Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is a classic beyond classics. Marvel vs. when they introduced Jin Kazama, and it's just Cable, and Maro was in there, the bone like that is a classic. That game right there was played for. That destroyed my finger on a Dreamcast.
Yeah.
It cut my finger alive. But like that game is actually brilliant.
You know, this one is actually backwards compatible on the Xbox 360.
Nice.
On the 360, not the Xbox One. So I can pop this disc original Xbox into my HD Xbox 360 and just play it.
Sweet, yeah.
So it's the only console that actually has the official port that I can play, and then otherwise you gotta rely on arcade ports or emulators. Fucking brilliant game. I mean, if we talk about those, we could talk about all of them.
No, but I mean, as in
many.
That particular one for me just killed it. Like, I know the earlier ones or the later ones can be favorites to people, but that particular one, like Time and Place, that was a classic. Like,
So back to the DC thing, I would say that because they're more true to the lore and the storyline, and there's no room for humor, as a result, it doesn't translate well to the big screen, and sometimes it puts people off. Because I know, like, I watched Batman vs Superman, and I was like, it's a bit depressing.
But DC do kill it in animation. The Justice League animated
I'm sure they do, but I don't follow the comics.
They've got the humor as well as what the movie should have followed the cartoons. The movie should have copied the animation.
So Mac,
like the cartoon shows.
The animated series of Justice League. If you get all the animated ones, they're on Amazon Prime actually. But if you watch the animated,
they've got that, yeah.
They've got the humor and the action and the darkness all in one, and they do such a good job.
Are these films or like TV shows?
Films. They're animated films.
Got both.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll check it out then. I've got.
Watch Flashpoint. Flashpoint is really, really good because Flashpoint is the technical end of the DC universe, but the artwork and the animation of the actual film, it's really good, man. Like, it's set in an alternative thing, but Hassan is completely on point. Their animated movies, they frequently get really high scores, and they're not something that you should miss out on. Like, you may not know all the DC stuff, but it's just worth watching them. Like, I'm not the best aficionado on DC stuff. Let's just be honest, man. I read some books here and there, but their films they're good, man. Like, I really enjoyed watching them.
I'm enjoying what's happening with DC because I'm excited for them, because I'm still learning a lot of the new stuff, whereas Marvel, I feel like they can retire now. Like, I've seen enough of Marvel, and
it's fine again, though.
they're in phase 4 or whatever, and to be honest, like, Iron Man is pretty much hanged his cape and everyone, and I feel like I've seen enough of Marvel, and I know enough of their A, B, and C grade characters. I want to start seeing actually A-star DC characters come to limelight, because they need to start doing it properly, and they've got so many powerhouses like characters where they haven't even shown them, and apparently they've got the exact same amount of characters, if not more, as Marvel. So let's
Oh,
start
yeah.
seeing them.
They've got more. They've got more.
I'm
They're
excited.
definitely-
I'm excited for the Zack Snyder cut of Batman versus Superman.
4 hours. It's 4 hours.
Yeah,
of
that's
corrections.
more content. I don't mind. I don't mind. I want to see Batman. I want to see Superman's black suit.
It's 4 episodes.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Hour each. They want
Yeah,
hour.
so
No, it's 4 hours. That's a lot.
it's going straight to HBO. It's going straight to HBO Max. So it's
Straight
going
to downloads, yeah, then to your PC.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, like,
But the thing is,
HP what?
He's done quite a lot of reshoots though. So he's done quite a lot of reshoots. They're doing quite a lot of rebuilds on it.
no, but
He
they
got
went into it, you know, the reshoots only amount to 4 minutes of footage.
So he's just recut it, all of it again.
Yeah, but remember there was Joss Whedon out of bitterness didn't use a lot of footage, so there's new footage there, but it's because it wasn't used, not because it's redone.
Yeah.
He's only redone for 4 minutes. Worth.
He's also using deleted scenes that he shot and they were never used originally because apparently they had to fit the 3-hour time slot, which was it 3 hours or 2 hours? The original movie.
2 and a bit. 2 and a bit.
Yeah, so even if you get the Blu-ray version, I've got the Blu-ray version somewhere. They have like bonus 1 hour or 30 minutes extra footage, purely because they tried their best to fit it into this cinema window where they get the most amount of views or most amount of audience, and as a result, they sacrifice so much of the movie, which is why people keep complaining that it's so much. You know, like what's happening is like you can't keep up because they cut so much of the actual origins, and apparently they cover that in the Blu-ray, but they cover it way more in the Zack Snyder cut. So I want to see why, so that it makes more sense, because a lot of the decisions that they made is hard because you cut the initial bit and then you're seeing the ending bit and you're thinking, how did that happen?
You don't care. You just don't care. That's what
Yeah,
happens.
so it'll be interesting, and I hope they can develop a way more of a movie, stronghold, so we can start seeing a bit more DC, because they can do another 10 years worth of DC new characters. I'd be amazed, because I'll be like, for the first time, I'm like, wow, I've never seen that. Whereas Marvel, they've done it for like the last 10 years. I absolutely love it, but
No, but
I'm happy. I'm content. And
I have to interrupt there for one thing, because there's a difference between Marvel and DC. DC is primarily backed by Warner Brothers, so a lot of the shot calling is done by Warner Brothers. It's not done by like DC. I think Haas, you know this, I think, or you can back on that.
Marvel owns their own studio now, innit? That's why they can make their own choices.
Yeah, no, because because you have Marvel Studios, but it's also backed by Disney. Like Disney know that Jon Favreau did justice for it, and they give them a free hand on it. Whereas with DC, if any of your viewers want to correct this in the comments, go for it, because everyone's always up for learning. But DC is owned by Warner Brothers, and a lot of the times Warner Brothers will say to them, like, no, you can't do it this way. You have to do it this way because we need to make profit from this.
They have their own agenda, basically. And
You've got problems. You've got like directors that take over. So like the animated, if you go on Amazon and watch the animated Wonder Woman movie, it's like 20 times better than the movie that came out, the live action one.
yeah.
It's so good. Even the end fight, the way everything's paced out, the animated has it on point. They did what the Marvel did, like slow build.
Yeah.
The Justice League season 1, 2, and then the third one was just called Justice League Unlimited, and that featured all the other DC heroes that you don't know about from other universes. So they built everything up so well in the animation. That's why the movies were disappointing to most people, because they watched those already. So they were like, DC fucked up.
So they did already own DC Universe. They've done their Universal movies, have they? In
animation,
form.
yeah, in animated form, yeah, and it's way better, way beyond.
Send me links to those. I need to sort of get into this, add them to my watch list, and start watching them, because
I think
it'll be interesting. Apparently
really
they got their own, water guy. They got their own, every character they got their version.
You'd be hooked.
I want to see it,
They did, you know that they did do 2 comic books back in the day where there was DC versus Marvel. So I've got both of them, but basically the first one was the Avengers versus their Justice League. So you had Aquaman versus Namor, Hulk versus Superman, Batman versus Captain America, and then in the second one
That sounds like a
it was
good film.
Avengers Justice League versus they had to fight together against like a group of people. And one of the images is Superman with Iron Man's shield and Thor's hammer going into battle, because he's the only one who's worthy enough to wield the hammer, but also he uses Superman's shield to protect himself. And it's an image that you'll never see ever again of Superman charging the front lines with this thing. But it was really interesting because, you know, we always see them as versus each other. At the end of the day, superheroes are meant to inspire youth, and, you know, you're meant to look up to these people and see them. But when you see them clashing together in that whole fight, it's interesting to see that. Like, it's the ultimate sort of fighting game.
Superman had whose shield?
He had Captain America's shield in one hand, and he had Thor's hammer in the other hand.
Why does he need that? He's Superman.
Yeah. Superman,
He's invalid.
It's a bit overkill, isn't it?
I thought you could just break him with his hands.
Yeah, like
because there are
he's a shield.
beings, isn't it? There are stronger beings than Superman, even in the DC universe. Like Darkseid is.
Oh yeah, but as long as he's got the sun, as long as Superman's got the sun back in him, he messes everything up.
Yeah, if Superman gets slapped by kryptonite, he's shit.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. That's it.
I think we've got a tangent now. I think we've got a very.
Yeah, I'm going to rename this slightly with a bit of DC and Marvel influence on the title now, because we talked enough.
We covered the best five, and yeah, like I went back because on PS2 there's a special collection that added the AM2 fighters, and they had give me 2 seconds. I've got it at the top. Yeah.
I love how you look and just grab your games, man.
Stuff like this. Last Bronx.
I have never ever seen that in my life.
What is that? I don't recognize anything. Why has it got spandex?
It's a 3D fighter that had it was made by Sega. It was like when it came out at the same time Soul Calibur, the 2D Soul Calibur, right? You know, the first Soul Edge. Was this was around then, and this fighter is really good.
What's it called? Last Bronx.
Last Bronx. They had different gangs. And it's really classic. Is it? This it was a part of this Sega Ages collection, the blue tab.
How do you play these games? Is your PS2 region free?
I've got a slimline chipped. When I went to Hong Kong, I bought a chipped slimline PS2.
Nice.
Sorry, Hassan, do you ever remember that 2D fighter on Super Nintendo called Tough Enough?
Yeah, I remember that. You just reminded me of it. It's crazy.
Not that many people know of that game, but that game was really good, man. Because it was literally, you start off, you fight one guy, and then you just fight bosses.
Yeah, but there's these like niche fighters. You had Eternal Champions on Mega Drive, and
World Heroes on SNK.
World Heroes is good. Waku Waku 7 on Saturn. Like there's beat 'em ups. There's so many beat 'em ups we can go into, but the best, we chose our best, but there is a lot I've played. But let's check out Last Bronx, man. But even this collection, if you've got a PS2, this collection's worth looking into. The Sega Ages 2500 collection.
Yeah. Have they got that game in? Was it released here?
No, that's why I got this. I imported it.
Then I don't know how I'm gonna check it out then.
When you come over, you'll play it.
Yeah, none of my systems play Japanese games. PS2 is like a nightmare to hack. You can't get that.
I'll hook up.
I hate fucking regions and fucking older. I mean, the older systems, man. The newer system, they're all region free. I love that. The older ones, such a nightmare. Right.
Before we finish this, there is something I want to ask. Street Fighter 3 was made by Capcom of America, wasn't it? It wasn't made by Capcom of Japan.
I'm not sure of the details, you know.
If it was, it makes sense because the way they had like hip hop music. They had like Axel being the main guy. He was from, I think he's from New York.
Oh, the wrestler. Yeah, it was American.
It was a very American influenced. So.
Are you sure about it? I'm pretty sure it's Japanese.
I'm trying to Google it quickly because I want to make sure.
I'm sure.
You mean Capcom, like the American division? They have a base there.
Yeah, I think it's wrong. I think that's wrong.
No, Japan. It's definitely Japan. It's definitely Japan. I think what you mean is their focus was to change the focus away from Japan. It was like an American.
No. Someone told me something wrong a very long time ago. Someone told me that was the only Street Fighter that developed in America. They chose not to develop it in England, but that
no.
Go back in the past and punched him in the face.
Yeah, that's it. That's fake news.
No, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Like
it's not worth the energy. Yeah, raw. That's deep. All right, guys. Let's close this off. I think we've covered everything we can about the top 5 fighters.
Yeah.
So thanks a lot for coming on, guys. Pretty awesome as usual. And until next time, we'll do the next topic. So think of a new one. And also leave comments below, guys. Let us know what your top 5 fighters are. And if you have any question about the games, ask the guys, and they'll basically look at the comments as well, and they'll reply. Yeah, like what everyone else's top 5 are and their reasons, because obviously we've got reasons. Dreamcast, and of course Hassan being like a primary reason for a lot of his arcade fighters. SNES, me growing up, a lot of inspiration for having Street Fighter games, and loved you. I don't know, you love a lot of King of Fighters. What was your influence? Was it PS2?
No, it's Capcom vs SNK. Capcom vs SNK really opened my eyes to the idea.
To the SNK characters, okay.
Yeah, really.
So you knew the SNK characters via the Capcom combination?
It's what sparked my interest. It's what sparked my interest.
I thought you was before that. Mine was the internet, because when the internet was new, like same with Last Blade 2.
AOL dial-up.
I used to research, literally. I used to research them before. I used to be a fake fan. I used to know all the characters and the details before playing the game.
Yeah. That's how people used to do it back in the day, man.
The only thing I would add to that is, of what I don't like about that, what I really did actually hate about Capcom vs SNK was the fact that SNK got shafted for the money. I didn't agree with that.
Oh, I didn't know that happened.
You told me about that story, and I didn't really fully understand that.
Capcom kept all the money for both games. Like, the license agreement was that Capcom would keep the money for both games, and then when SNK made it, SNK versus Capcom, which is SVC Chaos, they would keep all the money. But basically, they got shafted on that deal, and that was one of the reasons that led to SNK's downfall, and they got bought over by Playmore.
So what did they not get their money for that SVC versus Chaos?
They didn't get. They got money for SVC because they made it, but for Capcom versus SNK, because Capcom did all the work, Capcom got the lion's share of the thing.
I agree with that in a way, though.
Wait, so so the deal was they get money for all of it.
They're using your properties, but it's Capcom's game. They may be characters, but ultimately it's Capcom's game.
Yeah, but they needed money at that time. That was the problem. They had a failed console and they needed money at that time.
A deal's a deal. They obviously signed it. If they didn't read the legal pack, their fault.
It was a deal, but I think they could have thrown them a bone. But the thing is, what's interesting about that is that their latest King of Fighters game is meant to be amazing, and a Capcom artist went from Capcom.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good.
He went over to SNK to improve them. Like, I'm really happy that they've come back as a company. They're producing fighting games, and they're doing well for once. They're not now owned by somebody else. Like, they're on their legs and they're pushing forward with it.
Well, they're bringing back. They brought back Samurai Showdown. They're bringing back King of Fighters again on the main stage, and they got a new Metal Slug on the way. So
they got a new console on the way as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got a console coming out, but I'm a bit.
Everyone's not sure if it's going to be some sort of like a reshuffle of a classic system, or if it's a new system. But from the wording, it sounds like a new generation, a new system.
Crazy, right?
But yeah, we'll see what that is, because there's a lot of SNK products now, so they're getting back in the limelight. He was also in, Terry Bogard was in Super Smash Brothers. Because Sakurai, he's a massive fan of SNK, so he put in Terry Bogard, and that got everyone pumped for those games, innit? So, yeah, SNK are back in the limelight slightly, so we'll see what they can do with that popularity.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, thanks a lot, and that's it.
Cool.
Take care.
Thank you very much. Chat to you in a bit.